Climate change isn't some far-off abstract problem. It's happening now, reshaping economies and redefining global power. But what if the biggest climate agreement in history, one meant to save us, relies on voluntary promises with no penalties? And what if the world's biggest polluters aren't even paying their fair share? The shift from the Kyoto Protocol to the Paris Agreement changed everything. But is it enough to stop a climate catastrophe? Let's dive in. Back in 1997, the world had its first major "we should really do something about this" moment with the Kyoto Protocol. The idea? Make developed nations, who, let's be honest, had been pumping out pollution like a toddler let loose with finger paint, legally responsible for cutting their emissions. Kyoto even introduced some creative workarounds like carbon trading, so countries could technically meet their targets without actually cutting all their emissions. But surprise, the United States noped out of the deal, claiming it was unfair to let big developing nations like China and India off the hook. Other countries like Canada simply bailed when they realized they were failing. So by 2012, the world needed a new plan. Enter the Paris Agreement, the let's try something different approach. Instead of strict top-down mandates, Paris took a build-your-own-adventure route. Every country sets its own climate goals, known as Nationally Determined Contributions, or NDCs, and updates them every 5 years. To keep things somewhat accountable, countries have to report on their progress or lack thereof through the Enhanced Transparency Framework. There's even a global Stocktake every 5 years, basically a global report card where nations nervously glance at each other's test scores. But here's the catch. Participation is voluntary, and there are no actual penalties for missing targets, which is kind of like a gym membership that hopes you show up but won't charge you if you don't. On the plus side, Paris put a big focus on climate finance, with developed nations pledging $100 billion a year to help developing countries. But promises don't always equal payments, and funding gaps have led to some serious tension. Plus, some countries have hopped in and out of the deal like it's a revolving door. Meanwhile, emissions are still rising and the world is far from hitting the Paris goal of staying under 2 degrees Celsius of warming. So, what's next? The Paris Agreement has a ratchet mechanism to push for stronger climate commitments over time, but will countries actually step up? Will innovations in carbon markets, green tech, and renewable energy outpace the damage already done? And can we transition to sustainability before the planet turns into an all-you-can-burn buffet? I'll leave you to discuss in the comments. Are voluntary agreements enough, or do we need stronger enforcement to tackle climate change? You can support us by subscribing if you haven't already. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and I'll catch you soon in another video.